Hello and welcome to another episode of PPC Town Hall. My name is Fred Valles. I'm your host. I'm also CEO and co-founder at Optimizer, a PPC management tool. For today's episode, we have Jacques van der Wilt, who is the founder of DataFeedWatch. He started the company in 2008, and he obviously has a lot of thoughts on feed management and how that applies to e-commerce advertising on the advertising platforms. Now, data feed management, that used to be something quite manual, that used to be a lot of spreadsheets. And despite all the automation that tools have brought in over the years, the introduction of generative AI and its ability to work with structured data is obviously making massive waves in how these types of things are done. So I can't wait to hear from Jacques how AI is changing feed management, how that's impacting e-commerce advertising, and leave all of you with some tips and tactics that you can take away and apply to your advertising as well. So with that, let's get rolling with this episode of PPC Town Hall. Jacques, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Fred, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we're going to do this episode in English, right? Even though both of us speak Dutch. You're Dutch, I'm
Natively.
Belgian, Flemish.
Yeah, but we want other people to understand what we're saying. So we'll go English. Jan, you guys will have to deal with my accent, which is like way thicker than Fred's, who's become a real American. But I'm sure we'll get the story right in proper English.
Yeah, that's right. And if we don't understand, there's always generative AI and transcripts and translations as well. Hey, but Jacques, where are you calling us from today?
I am in my office in Amsterdam. Even though DataFeedWatch is an American company, most of us reside in Europe. We're a remote first company, and I'm running the company from Amsterdam, with having people, many people in Poland and several other countries. That's how the world goes today.
So a quick little anecdote. When I had left Google 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, I started my agency and I sold that agency to a company called SalesX, and they were in Foster City. And I was working out of that office. And one day I needed some data feed management help. And so I look up online and I find Data Feed Watch and I look at the address and it's literally the suite two doors down from the SalesX office. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I walked over, but I think unfortunately you guys had already departed from Foster City at the time and we're in a different location. But that's how I got to then know Jacques, because I was like, people, where did you all go? And then it was like, oh yeah, Jacques is Dutch. So we had a connection right there. But talk a little bit about those early days, Jacques. Like, what made you start a company like DataFeedWatch?
Yeah, well, that's a great intro, Fred, because Foster City brings back many memories. So we didn't start DataFeedWatch. We started WordWatch, which was an automated bid management system. At the time, the Google was only having search ads, text ads, and we ran that for a while. We got funded and all of that, and my co-founder said, let's go to California and sell it, and said, dude, we just raised money, so we're not going to do San Francisco. It's just too expensive. So this is like the first Dutch thing, right? With Scrooge. So we ended up agreeing on Foster City. Well, actually, and we actually went to we got found the Foster City. We went to San Jose, and so we spent a year there. And WordWatch became a classical early days internet startup story where a couple of excited guys raise €1 million and create a product, burn most of the money in like less than a year time, to have a product that was not for the masses. It was for a small group. It wasn't as well developed as it should have been, and the company failed. And I ended up restructuring that company, and thinking, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do next? And at that time, around 2011, 12, Google started with a new advertising format. They called it product listing ads, and it was like completely new. It had like images of products with the title and the price and all of that. And they needed something they called a data feed for that. And we figured, okay, this could be a much better deal. So we got in because we had customers interested in shopping ads with WordWatch, and they needed the feed, and the feed was a disaster. Right? They had to talk to their developers. Say, hey, I need a CSV file. This needs to be in there. It needs to come out of my store. So before we were ready to launch any shopping ad campaigns, we were like 4 or 5 months down the road. The customer would be like $500 to $1,000 down on his developer to even produce something called a data feed. And after a couple of months, my people were like fed up. This sucks. And then we said, well, what if we find a way to create and optimize data feeds? And we looked around, and there wasn't much around. There was some at the time. To the extent there was, it was like super expensive. So I figured, okay, we're a tech company. Why don't we just hack something together? And that's what we did. We put something together that was like ugly. Only we used it. It had like 3 functionalities, but we used it. It enabled us to connect to a store, download the data, and then rename fields and combine fields and even add static values. And it solved instantly 80% of the problems we had. And they were like, yeah, this is better than WordWatch, and we pivoted, and we gave it a better interface, added more functionality in like spring 2013. We took it to market, and we called it DataFeedWatch. There was a much better business. It's been growing basically non-stop for the past 11 years. We've added way more functionalities. We added way more customers. I think we're doing like 40% US, 40% Western Europe, and 20% Australia, New Zealand, and what we call global, which is like another 50 or 60 countries, with customers, small and large, that all have the same need. I need a data feed for Google, Facebook, Criteo, TikTok, whatever advertising channel. It needs to be optimized because the data in my shop isn't that great. And it needs to be refreshed like every morning or every hour, right? Because that's how fast we're selling our products, or that's how fast we're changing our inventory or our titles or our prices or anything else. And so the core business has been consistently the same, but the functionality, the organization, the support that we provide all have grown. And so after 11 years, and even selling the company to car.com a couple of years ago, I'm still happy to be heading DataFeedWatch. I'm still very happy to be in this business. And maybe it's not up to me to give the next you, Fred, but today we're going to talk about AI, and the topic basically is, you know, so I'm total AI fan in general. Let me, spoiler alert. But what is the impact of AI on data feed optimization, right? And on the industry and e-commerce and what have you. So yeah, that's the storyline. This is how far we came. Now there's AI, and it has given me new energy, new interest, and way more opportunities.
Cool story. And so that makes two technology optimists on this call. So let's see what kind of optimistic stories we can tell you. But as far as the AI story, let's maybe start from the consumer perspective, right? Because like you said, in the early days, it was Frugal was the shopping engine, and it just had not really fresh results. They would show stuff that was not even available anymore because there were no data feeds, and then they added data feeds, and then it became like these images with prices, and then now there's the AI overviews. There's Perplexity. There's just different ways that consumers shop for things. And a personal story. So I was recently looking for an iPad, but I didn't really need a business iPad. I just needed something I could use to watch movies on the plane that was a little bit bigger than my phone. And rather than going to the Apple website or going to technology review websites, I decided to just have a voice conversation for about 5 minutes with ChatGPT. I explained to it what I was hoping to use, and it explained to me the different models and the pros and the cons. And I thought it was such a fantastic experience. And so, talk to us about what you see is the evolution of consumer behavior in e-commerce, and then maybe how that connects back to what we do with feeds.
Yeah, I think you basically already told the story, and I think many consumers aren't as deep into it as you are, but every kid in school will use ChatGPT to write better text and to find better answers and what have you. And so consumers will increasingly um, enhance their own product search with way more than just Googling the name of a product or a product type. So this is going to evolve, and the things that we're seeing is of course that uh, every organization that is like search or social related is seeing this consumer need and is developing like crazy to make it happen. We may, I'm also reading, but that it's clear that the the position that Google has as the number one search engine, for the first time may be at risk because there's a new technology that may overtake it. Hence they come to market with Gemini, Facebook, obviously with Llama. ChatGPT is, for now at least, was the expression the 800-pound gorilla. But there's many other players flocking to the market. To take it back to data feed optimization and buying products and e-commerce, I read today that Perplexity is going to, didn't say literally, is going to create like a merchant center, and they want retailers to provide product data to Perplexity, and Perplexity is going to probably interpret the data in a much more artificially intelligent way than the way it's being done currently in Google or Bing or other platforms. Uh, so we're just scratching the surface. There's like an incredible iceberg below that, but AI is going to help us with everything, and definitely also with our e-commerce search. And
And then,
it may redefine the industry.
yeah, I completely agree. It is going to redefine quite a few things of what we do, but the perplexity thing is interesting. So let's go a bit deeper on that. So I think what I heard you say sort of is that the feed we give to Google is interpreted quite literally, right? Your title is your title, your description is your description, and by and large, those things get rendered in the ad. But I hear you saying that in Perplexity, it's almost more to like a framework that the AI will then interpret and summarize and maybe make it better, change what the title looks like to get people to actually be more engaged with it. Is that kind of what they're thinking of doing? And how do we play in that sort of arena where it's no longer that tight control that we're used to from Google, where the keyword is the keyword, the ad text is the ad text, to where it's a bit more of like, hey, here's some data about us and go and do what you need with it.
I think that if you send your data feed to Google, they will also have AI to interpret that. But of course, Google, has a very long history to get where they are today with Gemini. So when you have a long history, you've experienced that's very helpful. Also, you have you have a different path to progress than a company that's way younger and just jumped into the market right away with artificial intelligence. So I think that's going to make a difference. And then, to what extent will Perplexity or Google, whomever, optimize the data feed? Um, I don't think that will be their first inclination. I think Google, Perplexity, Bing, every search engine, their core business is to interpret the search query of the consumer, and then to match it to the best of their abilities to either an organic search result or to serve the ad that is most likely to be the thing that the customer is looking for. And I think that's the first place where we'll see this artificial intelligence happen, right? So for a long time, I've been like preaching, still am by the way, that if you create a data feed for Google, you got to optimize so much data, but if anything, you want to optimize the title, right? Because the customer enters a search query, let's say in Google, or maybe later now in Perplexity, and it will be, I need a Levi's 501 man blue jeans size 32, right? If that also happens to be the title, then Google goes like, like Google's person, like, he's looking for a Levi's 501, blah, 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 blah. And that's exactly the title. So the odds are pretty big that this is what he's looking for. So I better show this ad. right? So that's in the simplest form how data feed optimization increases your campaign performance, because Google's more likely to show your ad, more impressions. The customer thinks, hey, that's what I was looking for. So it's more likely to click, higher CTR, higher conversion rate. So there's an instant link between data feed optimization and the campaign performance. With AI, the ability for the consumer to more eloquently provide more information, like not, hey, I need a new iPad, but the thing that you were saying, Fred, I need something on the plane that's maybe not an iPad but higher, but larger than my iPhone. These are my needs, blah blah blah. So you're giving like way more information to the search engine. The search engine will then, with AI, will be way more capable to interpret that in the right way, and therefore much better able to also decide what's the kind of product that I should be recommending, whether that be like in an answer to the question that you posed, and or in the form of, oh, I actually have like 20 ads for the kind of products that this guy is looking for, and I think that these 5 are probably the best. So those are the 5 I'm going to stick on the screen. And then the consumer will be very happy with the result. So he's going to come back to me, Perplexity, or to Google, or whatever you're doing. And the retailer is very happy, because if there's such a good match between what the consumer wants and the product that is being offered, then the retailer is going to make more money. He's going to he's going to have, like I said, more impressions, higher
Everybody's
CTR,
happier.
high conversion rate, and everything.
Everybody's happier. Now, the example you gave about a Levi's 501, right? That's a very structured product. So if you look for a Levi's 501, then clearly you need to find a Levi's 501. I recently did a bathroom remodel at my house. And when it comes to bathroom remodels, I mean, there's IKEA cabinets. That's one brand I can think of. But honestly, I cannot think of another brand. And so it's much more about visually describing, ooh, I'd like a panel that's maybe a little bit textured and maybe like one of these modern hues of blue, and maybe the countertop. And so it's very visually descriptive, right? And that's one personal experience. And another personal experience is I was manipulating some photos of me and my family to turn ourselves into like basically avatars. My daughter wanted to be like in the Barbie movie. And so I give it a photo of her, and I tell it to make it look more like a Barbie. But at first, it starts by describing the image, and it was brilliant because it's like, oh, there's a girl, and she's wearing a pink T-shirt, and it seems to have a unicorn that's like half narwhal, half unicorn. It's like, wow, it's mind blowing how well I can just look at an existing image and describe it, and that's cool, right? Because now if I'm looking for that unique thing, that unique piece of furniture, that unique piece of clothing that's not a brand name, like my question to you then becomes, how important is the title versus how much is generative AI just going to look at the picture of the thing that you're selling and figure out what is vectorize basically what that is, so that no matter what the user types in, and the keywords may not be exactly spot on, but it can still understand what it is you wanted and match it to the thing, even if the title was not the best description. Do you see that really changing things?
Fred, I don't think it's really like either or. I think you just described the evolution. I think that we're going to be, if we're looking for a bedroom, we may also upload a few pictures of the bedrooms of friends that we've seen, or stuff that we maybe collected on Pinterest, or maybe it will just happen all on Pinterest because the pictures are there, right? So it's only going to get more visual. I don't think that will switch from titles to visuals overnight, because processing images at AI takes a lot of processing capacity, right? It takes a lot of energy, it takes very expensive chips and what have you. With images, it's only going to get worse. So obviously, this is also something that we're looking into, to define to take the image as the source of a product and derive everything from that. Probably not everything, but still a lot. But processing images, sending images over to sending 100,000 images over to a server on the other end of the world, and then have it processed and all of that, that's really going to take a lot of time. So I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying it won't happen overnight. And the tech guys will find a way to also make that happen in very little time. and with fewer energy and fewer processing capacity. And then I think we'll just go there. We'll go exactly to what you're describing.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. So there's scale, right? So the experiments that you do on your free plan of GPT or maybe the $20 plan of GPT, sure, that's fun and that's interesting. But then if you have to deploy it across 100,000 products, you need to build it into the API. And now we're looking at, depending on which model you're using, $60 per what is it, million tokens. So the costs do run up quite high. But one thing that's been very promising is the fact that you have the $60 per million tokens model, but at the same time you have the $2 per million tokens, right? And so part of the optimization that you as a marketer can do is figure out what model, what large language model or vision model is good enough to give you the results that you need without like ballooning the cost for only incrementally better results. And that kind of leads me into my next question, Jacques. Which LLMs and vision models, like, what are your favorites? Which ones do you use, and what are some cool ways that you've seen marketers deploy AI?
That's a lot of questions in one
More.
go. Uh, I I don't really have a favorite LLM. I think that currently ChatGPT is still providing the best quality results. As you mentioned, ChatGPT at scale is also very expensive. So there's various other there's like many other language models that are almost as good, but they're priced differently. And if there's any arms race going on in the world right now, it's the arms race of the LLMs, and they're like working frantically to improve and improve and improve, and like every I don't know, every month, every 2 months, there's like a new version of like almost like a dozen LLMs, and they're all getting better. Right now, the the interest in AI in general is like evenly spread between like the promise of AI and the threat, right? And the threat goes from like what happens with AI in arms, but it also goes like to go back to your image example. Uh, I have created many images using AI, by making description, and there is always something like terribly wrong, right? So the image would be like great, but then I don't know, the guy would have like three eyes or like two hands, or he would. I picture a guy in his car behind the wheel, and I managed to get that, except he was like facing the back of the car instead of gazing through. So and hallucinations and anything. However, let's not forget that we have only just begun, and going back to the arms race, the speed at which everything will improve will be like incredible. In general, people tend to uh, overestimate what will happen at short term and underestimate what will happen later on, and we're going to see that here as well.
That makes sense. Amara's
That makes
law.
sense. Yeah, I'm
So
thinking back. What was the question? The question was, what were my favorite LLMs? So I
yeah,
don't
no,
have many,
yeah.
and
So, I mean, I agree with you. So I use mostly OpenAI's ChatGPT, not necessarily because it's my favorite, but because I see all of them are leapfrogging each other, and eventually they all seem to come to the same place and the same capability. And ChatGPT having really been the first that had a good API, that's just the one that we've latched onto. And I do pay attention to what some of the others are doing. And if OpenAI doesn't come out with that same capability in a timely fashion, I might go and investigate deeper. But certainly for anything we do at scale, it's OpenAI right now. But we don't always use the latest models, again, because it's just they're much more expensive. And for tasks like keyword generation or ad text suggestions, it is not worth 30 times the cost for a slightly better ad. When it comes to something like writing ad scripts, I do like using the latest models like O1 because it is significantly better. O1 is actually the first version of GPT that has given me a single shot correct answer. With a single prompt, it actually writes a script that works without issues. In GPT 4.0, I usually have to go back about 3-4 times to get it to fix errors before it works, which is still not horrible. It's still faster than writing it manually, but it's worth paying extra for O1 in that case.
Yeah, and it's like one script, so that's not that expensive. Whereas if you need keywords for 100,000 products, so this is actually one of the earliest conversations when we started developing our AI. Um, we instantly ran into a scenario where we would offer AI optimized feeds, and then people would sign up, and they'd connect a store with like 500,000 products, or like 10 stores with 100,000, and then we would instantly provide them with AI optimized titles, descriptions, whatever, uh, um, and we'd have to pay OpenAI like a fraction of a cent for every product. And that would add up like crazy. And for a single sign up, we would run up a bill of thousands of customers just to give him AI values for all of his products. And we're like, oh, we can't afford it. No one can afford it. So we're gonna have to make them pay. And I'm like, man, I really, really hate that. So that means that you sign up, you're a legit customer, right? You want to sign up and stick around for a couple of years. You're just not trying to fraud your way into AI values. You come in with a large store, 100,000 products, and then you go, okay, now I'm going to get a great tool and great AI values, and say, no, 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 no. I know you're on a free trial, but the first you're going to have to pay me $5,000, and then I'll give you the AI. I'd rather not do AI at all than give customers this experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. I also want to give them like, well, you have to upgrade to a plan that will cost you like $1,000 more per month. It was all bad, right? So even before we started creating the AI, we went to exactly this scaling conversation. We want to be able to offer AI, either for free, which is what we currently do, or if not that, then for a reasonable fee. So our thinking really started from that. How are we going to create, let's say, our own AI ecosystem using our experience, our smart development, existing technology, cloud scaling, what have you, to be able to do that? Because otherwise, we all know it's going to get cheaper, right? We don't know
No.
when. We don't know how fast. And I wasn't going to wait for that.
And I want to talk more about that, but it kind of led me into another thought. Somebody at a conference recently asked me, with the plethora of AI solutions that are out there, how do you choose one and have the trust that that tool is going to be around in a couple of years, so that you don't make an investment into something that's going to fail? And so kind of where you led me with that question was, sure, there could be an AI company that's giving you all of these capabilities and 100,000 titles optimized. But like you said, they'd be losing a huge amount of money on that potentially. So that might be a business that fails in a year or two. And now you've invested all of your capabilities, your workflows in that. So how do you think consumers and advertisers should think about choosing AI tools when there are so many choices?
Well, it really depends, for starters, on the business that you're in. If you need some kind of AI capability that you'll have to like deeply integrate into your operations, and maybe also in your processes, your software, and what have you, then imagine what happens if that company goes belly up. That's like it's like losing a limb or something for that company. But if your business is, let me just speak for myself. If your business is data feed optimization, and you sign up for a tool that will give you like AI values for the various attributes that you need to optimize, then it's optimized. It's in your Google, Facebook, and what have you feed, and nothing will change. And then if your provider goes belly up, you're gonna have to find another one who will then optimize the values for the new products that you add to your feed. So the ability to switch around is probably very important, more important than anything else. Because otherwise, it's like you say, you invest deeply in something, we don't know what's going to happen at short notice with this very
Yeah.
new industry.
I mean, so my take on that maybe a little bit different is you've already invested in tools and workflows that your team is now using, that they understand, that they hopefully like.
Yeah,
Many of these tools are probably adding the same AI capabilities that AI only new players are coming up with. And so the new AI players, they may do a better job of saying, hey, like we're the newest, we're the greatest, we're the latest AI. But think of the switching cost and retraining everything your team is doing, right? Whether it's data feed management or it's PPC optimization software, or it's your customer management system, all of these things, it's just like there was this great quote: our tools use electricity. Well, our tools use AI. All tools use AI at this point. They
yeah,
will use AI at some point. So you don't have to go look at a new tool. You should talk to your existing vendor
yeah,
and communicate to them, oh, maybe I saw this great demo from someone and they were able to do this. And oh, well, it's just simple integration with OpenAI. We'll do that too for you.
yeah,
And then you don't have to switch up all your workflows.
yeah. No, that's a very good point, Fred. Yeah, and that was also definitely part of our thinking. We've never looked at AI as something separate. Like, oh, now we have AI, right? Sounds good this day and age, but it means nothing. It's like,
Mhm.
30 years ago, people would say, I'm on the internet. Well, gee, congratulations, right? And AI is going to work the same way. Like the internet is, is just a network that connects like everything, that makes everything easier. AI has no meaning in its own right. So you want to use, as as a provider like we want to use a new technology that happens to be called AI, to improve the stuff that we're already doing. And I think that there are plenty of tools that are doing it like that, and maybe those are a safer choice than a new kid on the block that says, "Hey, I'm new. We got founded like 3 months ago, and now we use AI to do everything that you've been doing with this other tool for like the past 5 years." I'm not saying that cannot be done, but if it's embedded, you can continue with everything you already have and have embedded in your organization. That's probably a safer choice.
So, DataFeedWatch, then it sounds like you ended up building your own AI capabilities. Tell us a little bit about what's cool about AI in DataFeedWatch. What does it enable advertisers to do?
Yeah, if you don't mind, if you do, you can cut it out. I have a little story about how, particularly when I got started with AI. I got started like 5 6 years ago with AI. You know why? I was, I was on a roll with DataFeedWatch. Everything was going well, and then I believe that many founders are suffering sometimes from this. Then you think it's going so well, and we're growing so fast, and we're making so much money. What if I lose it all, right? And then I figured, okay, so what would it take for me to lose like everything? And I thought about that and like, okay, we have a data feed optimization tool. It's very user friendly, intuitive. People come in and they optimize their feeds. They do the Levi's 501, blah blah blah, all good, but it still work, right? And the customer still needs to think, okay, if I create a title for apparel, what needs to go in there? So then I figured, okay, if there would be a new data feed tool tomorrow that would just say, click here and your feed is optimized and ready, then I'm like, okay, we're dead, right? Because then everyone would go there because it would be like the perfect feed. It would like take 3 clicks. I wouldn't have to think. Wouldn't have to work. I wouldn't have to click, and it would be done. And then I think, okay, let's elaborate on that. If that's the kind of company that would put us out of business, I should become that company, and started sketching, like literally wireframing how that should work. So the AI embedded AI functionality that we have in DataFeedWatch today, I actually designed 5 or 6 years ago, coming out of fear, basically. And maybe it's not literally the same, but it's more or less it's the very same principle. And then of course I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to be that company, and we're going to get to work. And I hired new people, and man, it was so difficult. We did manage to get some basics in place, but after like 2 years, I sort of abandoned it. And then OpenAI, ChatGPT came along. Like the time has come. Right now's the time we got to do this. We got to work right away. And like now, I was able to realize the vision that I had 5 years ago. So that's kind of cool, and that's also the reason why I'm such an AI fanatic on
Nice.
this.
And that's really great advice. I mean, I think everyone listening today, whether you're an agency owner or a business owner, think of what you're worried about for your business or the grand vision of what you maybe at some point thought about achieving and it wasn't possible at the time, and see how generative AI can get you to that place, right?
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
I mean, whether it's an app that you've always wanted to build, it's so easy to build an app now, so much faster than it used to be, or update your branding. That has become much easier. So many things that are now possible. It's no longer about saying like I can't. It's about saying I haven't yet.
yeah,
And like now is that time where you should start.
exactly. If you are a founder, if you run an agency, if you run a technology company, and you're not investigating at least what AI can mean for your business, then you should start worrying at night, right? The train has left the station. You better be on it, or you better get on it. It's not too late, but I think the time is now. And to go back to your question, Fred, so there was also the thinking of so what is it really that we need to create? So of course it needs to be basically what we do is we enable customers to create and optimize data feeds. And the better the feed, so the better the data, the better the campaign performance. So we're going to continue doing that. That's our core business, and it needs to be like easy peasy. And even though it's AI, you want to make sure that the customer has a control. So where do we start? Well, first of all, I said, in that dream that I had, you should click once, and then it should work, right? So we've expanded our auto mapping so that the moment you connect your store, we're going to read everything that's in there, and you say, "Oh, I want to be in Google," and then every attribute that Google wants and that is actually available in your store in your source feed is going to be mapped, right? And every field, I'll talk about the fields later. Every field that can be optimized with AI is already optimized, and then we want you to go like, yeah, oh yeah, that's all my data. Okay, what do we now? Okay, I click save. There's your one-click optimization, right? So we put that in place, and then for what we put AI to work, again, we're just out of the gate, right? I like what we have, but we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to come. So customers spend time looking for missing data. So like I have 100,000 products and 10,000 do not have a value for color, right? I'm selling apparel. So Google is disapproving my products. So you can fix that in DataFeedWatch, right? You can create an Excel file with colors, and then we extract all those colors for the description. So it can be done, but it's work, right? And you're probably missing a few colors in that Excel sheet. So it was the best we could do so far. But today we tell AI, go get the colors, right? And put them in the color field. Or actually we have like a separate field for all the color values that we find. So that's, you gotta have the colors and the sizes and other attributes. But you don't want to spend time, check the box. No more time spent, it's there. A categorization. No, who likes categorization? No, nobody does, right? And Google has made your life easier to say, don't worry, category is no longer mandatory, and we'll do it for you. We have AI to do it, so that's great. But all the other channels do not, right? So having the categories is still an important attribute in order to get a better performance. So AI is turning your product types from your source feed into the Google, the Facebook, or whatever category. Nasty job, has to be done. No worries. Just click save because we already did that for you. But of course, the masterpiece is title and description, right? Description sometimes like missing, or excuse me, all of my customers, but really, sometimes it's really written in a very bad way. It sounds even worse than my English. It's not concise. Sometimes it's like awesome description, but often it's not. And AI, there's one thing AI does well is just rewrite what you have, find more information elsewhere, and make it more concise. Turn this description into this description is going to be much better. And then we're back to, since we don't do images yet, we're back to title that we touched upon earlier, Fred. So we created a system that, because it's also our experience that matters, right? At the end of the day, humans do matter, right? And I have a lot of humans that have like 10 years of data feed optimization experience. So we created a system there where for 200 product categories, we know what the right title format is. And then we tell AI, figure out what the product is, and then rewrite the title so it has the right attributes in the right order. Then go to other fields like description. There's probably more data in there that you can use to enrich the title. It's great to optimize the title so that it has an impact on your campaign performance.
And that all makes sense. I mean, so there's basically some fields that you just have to have filled out for your feed not to be disapproved. And then there's some optional fields that filling them in just make sure you're better matched in the right situations. And then there's fields like title and description, which you have, but they may be suboptimal and maybe they're better through AI. So, Jacques, how do you measure that ultimately if you are taking the gobbledygook that your initial description contained, like, and then AI, sure, it sounds better if you read it, but how do you know it actually performs better?
What we don't do directly is to take the titles that we optimize ourselves and then measure the performance, for example, in the Google campaign, in the Google Shopping campaign, because there are so many there's so many things defining the campaign result. But we do enable customers to do A/B testing with different titles, so they can A/B test their original title against the AI titles. If you do that massively, then you should start seeing at least signs on your analytics that is indeed happening. But other than measuring the actual impact in the campaign, we do use technology and humans, lots of them, to also basically check if those titles are indeed better than they were. So we have a system that basically use AI, very original, to check the quality. There's of course always a risk that AI will say, "Hey, what I just created is really absolutely the best," right? So you gotta put in some objectivity there. But at the end of the day, we're also using more than half of the people that work in my company to check titles and descriptions on a regular basis to make sure that uh, if it's not perfect, that at least it's not wrong. And then if stuff is missing, then we modify a system that in the future it will not be missing. Anyone who will tell you that I got AI and I created the perfect system will lie. That's not possible, or at least not this year or next year. Uh, but it's a combination of AI, actual A/B testing, and old-fashioned humans to make sure that the quality of the AI generated stuff is really in order.
Yeah.
And if you want, yeah, okay, spoiler alert. What we see is that we do have customers that have written the perfect titles, right? So don't use AI. It's already like really good. You knew what you were doing, so there's no need to use it. As a matter of fact, there might be small chances they will gobble it up and it will actually not be as perfect as you had it in mind. Um, but in general, especially with lots of products, with thousands or tens of thousands of products, it's almost physically impossible to do that optimization title by title by title manually. And if you had the time, then I think the human that knows what he's doing, would still do a better job in most cases.
And I think when it comes to these GPTs, you can also feed them examples of high performing headlines and descriptions that you've had in the past? And high performing is literally then measured by your KPIs and the data out of Google Ads. And you give that as a data set, right? And you can say, write my new headlines more like the high performing ones, and the system will automatically pick up on what is it about the structure, the grammar, the call to action. And then it'll take that concept and apply it to different products, but come out with something that should presumably also carry then that higher performance by following the methodology that has worked in the past.
And that's basically how you're sort of training your own system to improve continuously.
Yeah, no, that's great. So if people want to try it out, we'll put this in the show notes, but tell folks where they can go for that trial. And if they want to talk more to you or hear what you're thinking about, how do they follow you?
Yeah, so at datafeedwatch.com, you can contact us. You can also just sign up for a two week free trial to try everything that I said out, see if you like it before you pay a single dime to us. And just enter my name in LinkedIn and invite me, and then we're going to be talking.
Great. And we'll put that in the show notes, Jacques van der Wilt and DataFeedWatch. So, Jacques, thank you very much for being here today, sharing some of your thoughts on AI in the
Thank you, Fred.
context of data feeds. Everyone, thank you for watching today. If you've enjoyed this episode and you want to be notified about future ones, please subscribe. Also, we would love a rating, especially those 5-star ratings. We really enjoy. If you want different topics, you feel free to reach out to me and tell me what we should be talking about, maybe suggest some different guests. I'm always happy to take suggestions. With that, thank you for watching PPC Town Hall, and we'll see you for the next one.